Very glad to have our next guest join us. He is the chair of Dems. Ben Wikler is here. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning. How are you?
You look pretty awake. You look pretty conscious. I follow you on Twitter, and like you are all over the place, man.
I mean, we're in the final stretch here, right?
I wanted to start out with something which just seems to have blown up in the last couple of days, and I find it interesting because this ad that Matt Nair on Air received from a completely legitimate and totally real super PAC, Ben. We started playing this about a month ago, and now it seems to be getting reaction from some people on the Fox network. Calvin, can you play that ad that we have from this completely legitimate and totally real super PAC? Take a listen to this.
And now a message from a Wisconsin voter.
Yeah, hi, this is Betty from Rhinelander. I've been voting for the same party all my life. It's been okay, I guess. Now, my parents taught me to be patient. All things come to those who wait. But for too long now, it seems like some politicians in Wisconsin think their job is to make sure nothing gets done. What the heck is that all about? Take us back to the good old days. You mean back to polio and outhouses? There was nothing good about that, I can tell you. Oh yeah, they talk a good game at election time, but when it comes to helping folks with poisoned water, closing hospitals and childcare, where are they when it comes to actually fixing it? They gavel in and gavel out and go on vacation. It makes me so gosh darn mad. So November 5th, I'm voting a different way. I'm just not going to tell my husband, or my sister, or my garden club, or my Facebook friends, or say anything on the Substack I have about extreme knitting. But I might tell my granddaughters.
Paid for by the Let's Knit Crazy Super PAC.
I'm Betty, and I approve this message. Let's just keep it between us.
Yeah, we started running that, Ben, about a month ago, and all of a sudden now there's some national ads that are kind of picking up on that same theme, shall we say, about your vote is private. When you go in to cast your ballot, no one knows how you vote. Now, this is getting seems to me, some extreme reactions from some people on the right. Calvin, let's play clip number 2 from Jesse Waters on Fox.
And if I found out Emma was going into the voting booth and pulling the lever for Harris, that's the same thing as having an affair. That to me,
oh my God! Let him finish. Go, Jesse. It's our day.
That violates
Judge.
the sanctity of our marriage.
Yes.
What else is she keeping from me?
Exactly.
What else has she been lying about?
Why would she lie to you? Have you threatened her? Why would she lie to you?
Oh, they want me to tease.
Why would she do that and then vote Harris? Why would she say she was voting Trump
not the problem.
and then voting Harris? And I caught her. So and then she said, I lied to you for the last 4 years.
So you admit you intimidate
It's
people.
over.
Oh, we got to go to break. Oh, yeah, they're signaling we have to go to break. Let's get out of here. This isn't going well.
That, I think that kind of says it all, right? Which is that there's a ton of men who are supporting Harris, including me. There are some guys who feel like they need to be able to control women and control the women in their lives and control women that they'll never meet. And it's threatening to think that everyone can make up their own mind and it's everyone's private personal decision who they're going to vote for. And I will just tell you, I've been in 32 counties in the last 2 weeks. I've been knocking on doors myself and talking to volunteers and talking to staff all over the state. And everywhere we hear reports about couples where both have voted Republican in the past, and now there are a lot of women who are going to vote for Harris. I think this is probably a bigger deal than even shows up in the polls. And you can see in the polls a massive gender gap already. But I do think there's such a thing as the shy Harris voter, the way there used to be the shy Trump voter. I think that the way that Trump voters used to feel like they would get, berated and attacked if they came out with their support for Trump, now there is no social sanction for being a Trump supporter in Wisconsin, especially in red areas in Wisconsin. But there is a fear that a lot of people have if they come out as somebody who's not supporting Trump now. But when it is just them and their conscience and that bubble that they can fill in on their ballot in the voting booth, I think a lot of people are going to vote for Harris. And I'd rather be Harris now.
I just have one little caveat about Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters famously was married and having an affair with the young producer he is now married to. He got her to go on a date with him because he let the air out of her tires. He's talked about it on the air. So please, Jesse, take your holier than thou, you're betraying my marriage outrage. Please take it somewhere else.
Oh my God.
I think if there's no greater suggestion or a proponent for watching the live stream, it's seeing Ben Wikler's face when he heard Jesse Waters say it's the same as an affair. But the other thing too, Ben, we've talked about, we've talked about this topic a lot, but also the other thing is, your vote is private. No one knows who you'll vote for. But I think it's also very important to talk to men about that too. Your dad doesn't know who you vote for. Your golf buddies don't know who you vote for. You don't have to tell them. As you said just now, vote your conscience. When you're in that little booth and it's only you and that ballot, you vote what you want and you don't have to tell anybody else. And I think it's important for men to know that too, because in so many ways that Trump is this, and I don't know why, this sense of strength and manlyhood and alpha dogticity that he's not really, but they glom onto it because they're missing something as guys. But you can just be in that booth and vote for whomever you want. And it's okay if you vote for Harris. It's fine.
It's so fine. And I think there's two big reasons for guys to do this. One is it's an act of solidarity and it's a belief in human rights, because women's rights are human rights. And, as guys, like, we should respect the humanity of everybody. And, if there are women in the world that you love, you can do this for them, but also do it for yourself. Do it for guys. Yeah. Harris is going to be way better for men than Trump is. And, if your number one issue is the economy, Harris's plans will make life more affordable and give you more opportunity, not just to, get support when you're down, but also to be able to actually get ahead and start a business and be your own boss and do things that a lot of people dream about. And Trump's is going to send us into recession. He's going to lift prices on everything. He's going to give tax cuts to billionaires, and he's going to stick it to everybody else. So even if there's zero solidarity, you're only thinking about your own bottom line. Guys, this is the time to vote for Harris. And I think it is easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you should, that how you ought to vote should be only self-interest or concern for others. In this case, they line up perfectly, because we are all going to do better when Harris is president. Even the wealthy will probably do better, honestly, because the size of the economy will grow. If the middle class has more strength, they'll be able to buy more stuff. So people who own companies, they might have a little bit higher taxes, pay their fair share, but they'll be paying higher taxes on a larger economy. Economic growth will be higher. It has been, if you look at the last 80 years, the 40 years under Democratic presidents have had significantly higher economic growth every year than under the Republican presidents. So it is in everyone's self-interest and in their social interest to make sure that Harris wins this election.
Oh, there you go. Bringing about facts again, Ben. Jeez, you just
Ben and his logic.
Things. If you're just joining us, Ben Wikler is our guest. He's the chair of Dems here in Wisconsin.
I think that, and folks who talk about the economy, and I don't worry about those billionaires and millionaires. Even if we raise their taxes a little bit, I got news for you folks. They're still going to be wealthy.
Really, really, really rich.
Wealthy beyond our imagination, and we got to worry about ourselves and the groceries we got to buy and the cars we got to afford and the homes and the childcare. Those are the things. I'm not worried about billionaires paying more taxes. I'm worried about, can I afford to pay for what I owe right now?
And Ben, we've talked to several people about tariffs. We've been talking about tariffs for a couple of weeks, and we talked about the economics of it yesterday because the Washington Post came out with a column that said businesses are planning. They're starting to make plans to raise prices if Donald Trump imposes all of these tariffs. That's not good.
It is bad. In fact, you're absolutely right. Here's the other thing that no one's really talking about. If the U.S. starts throwing tariffs on imports from every other country, other countries are going to throw what are called retaliatory tariffs on things that we export.
Yep.
So suddenly, if you make stuff in this United States of America, it's going to be harder to sell your goods abroad because other countries are going to respond to our tariffs by responding to a trade war that Trump will have started. That's how we spin into a recession. It's harder to export and it's harder to buy stuff in that scenario. Bad for everybody.
And that would be devastating for Wisconsin farmers.
Absolutely.
It
We've
really
seen
would.
it before. We saw the trade war when Trump was president before. Targeted tariffs on Harley Davidson exports, targeted tariffs on like all the stuff that we make in Wisconsin, because foreign countries know that if you want to punch Trump, go where the swing votes are. So those of us who live in battleground states would be hurt the most by a trade war that Trump would start. And there's no reason to do that. It's just bad for everybody.
And the other thing that our guest said, his name is James Vanderloo, he said that if the tariffs are imposed, he will be on the phone the next day with businesses who will have to relocate to other countries or shut down because they will be so affected. And they know that immediately. And that was the point that hit me right in the heart, because I was like, I didn't even think about that. And that's something he deals with every day.
Well, companies have to plan ahead, and companies hate chaos. They need stability. They want stability. That stability is good for business. We're going to continue our conversation with Ben Wikler with Dems. He's the chair. Stay close. You are listening to Matt Nair on air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning, and welcome back to Matt Nair on air. Jane Matt Nair, Greg Bach, and the Calvinator coming to you live from Radio Park here in Racine. My name is Jane, and that's Greg
Jane.
Bach, and that's Calvin. And our guest is Ben Wikler. He's the chair of Dems. Thank you so much for carving out some time for us, Ben. I know you're crazy busy traveling all over the state. Before we went to the break, we were talking about this freak out on the right now, and I believe it's the Lincoln Project that has come out with these two ads, one directed at women and one directed at men, just reinforcing that no one knows how you cast your vote when you go into the voting booth on November 5th or before. I want to play one more reaction, Ben, just because it makes me laugh. This is Charlie Kirk on Laura Ingraham talking about these ads where women aren't telling their husbands how they're voting. Calvin, play that clip, please.
It is the embodiment of the downfall of the American family. I think it's so gross. I think it's so just nauseating, where this wife is wearing you'll show it, wearing the American hat. She's coming in with her sweet husband, who probably works his tail off to make sure that she can go, and have a nice life and provides for the family. And then she lies to him saying, oh yeah, I'm going to vote for Trump. And then she votes for Kamala Harris as her little secret in the voting booth. Kamala Harris and her team believe that there will be millions of women that undermine their husbands.
Undermine their husbands, Ben. Not think for themselves, not vote in their own interests. They're undermining their husbands.
Yeah. I mean, this starts with, a worldview that many people have, and it's not only men, but where the man is the ordained head of the household, and he calls the shots, and everyone follows his dominion. And this is a free country, and there are lots of different ways that families can be set up, and are in fact set up. And sometimes people in the same family disagree about how that family is set up. And that is the point of having a secret ballot. That the whole idea is that it is up to each person. That is what democracy is. So I mean, they're kind of telling on themselves with this reaction, right? This is why there are so many people who are not telling their spouses how they're going to vote.
And I just can't see how they think this is going to help their cause. That, we love women. We're going to protect women, whether you want it or not. I just don't know how that's going to play so well over the next 5 days.
I think that I don't think it plays well, man. I gotta say, all over Wisconsin, we hear the same thing. We hear people block after block. You hear people say, "Look, I'm the only Democrat on this block. I don't want a yard sign, but I'm with you this time." And it's people who don't want to deal with someone like that, who is going to treat it as an act of personal betrayal if you vote your conscience in this election. But there's no force in the world that can crowd into your voting booth with you and try to make that decision for you. One thing that's striking to me is I've sometimes met voters who specifically want to vote against the way that they're being told to vote. So I've met non-voters who say, I'm not voting because everyone tells me it's my duty to vote, and I don't want anyone telling me what to do.
So they're just contrarians.
They're contrarians. But I think that this kind of stuff from people who think they're entitled to other people's votes is going to provoke contrarians to voting the other direction. If someone tried to pressure me, it would make me want to resist it by voting against what they're saying to do. And I think that it's so funny. It's almost like a reverse 2016, where the Republicans, in fact, are hectoring people and making people feel like they're obligated, and making people feel like, like they're pushing people in a way that I think people don't like to respond to, whilst trying to. This is something Clinton never did, never would do. They're stripping away people's rights and then telling them they just have to eat it. They just have to knuckle under and submit. And that provokes a kind of an anger that I think is going to pose a real problem for the Trump campaign in these final 5 days.
I mean, that's the thing too, is like we've all seen this. Every time that the GOP does not win their red wave that they're expecting, they're always doing the postmortem on all of the cable news networks saying, what did we do wrong? And it always comes down to, we didn't broaden our message, we didn't include people, we didn't do the talking. They're not doing, Ben, what you are doing, what the Democrats, I think, always do better, which is the ground game, knocking on doors, making phone calls, connecting with people, hearing their stories and listening. Whereas Republicans just say, here it is, deal with it. Oh, by the way, Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage and you have to deal with that too. It's not a cohesive message. And they keep on stepping on their own, they rake stepping over and over again as we get closer and closer to the election. And it's just, you kind of want to say to yourself, do you know how to actually run a campaign? Do you think this is the right way?
You know, Trump has told his team, he's told them, I will get the votes out. You just prevent it from being stolen. And there's a profound arrogance that's built into that.
Yeah.
But he seems to really believe to his core that if he yells at people enough, that they're going to come out and vote for him in great numbers. And the thing is, if you are an experienced volunteer and you've actually gone door to door, there are so many different reasons why people hesitate. Sometimes it's logistical. Sometimes it's just not having the basic information about where to go to cast your ballot or what information you need to bring. Sometimes it's that people have so much going on in their lives, they haven't had time to realize that they won't have time on election day, so they need to make a plan to go beforehand. And when Trump pulls back from doing any on-the-ground organizing, he basically leaves all those votes on the table. He takes people that would otherwise vote for him, but they're not getting the kind of personal support to just figure out a plan and actually go cast their ballot that would lead to an extra vote for him on his end. He thinks that his own animal magnetism is enough to ensure that everyone will crawl through glass and cast votes for him. And it's a kind of a disrespect for the reality of voters' lives to me. I find it kind of personally offensive in the way that a democracy should work.
Well, and I find it interesting because there has been some reporting now about the ground game that the Republicans have going on, and they outsourced it to some Charlie Kirk group, which allegedly was falsifying how many door knocks they were doing and then taking the money.
Yeah. So there's Charlie Kirk, and then there's the Elon Musk super PAC, America PAC.
Yeah.
And Elon Musk super PAC is there's a huge report about how they hire people without telling them what they're actually going to be doing. And so they wind up hiring all these people who don't know that they're supposed to go out and push for Trump. And like, we've actually experienced that in Wisconsin. I have multiple stories that I've gotten back from the field of America PAC canvassers coming around, doing their script, and then people ask, who are you voting for? And they say they're voting for Harris.
Oh my God.
I know. Which this is what happens when you treat actual organizing and engagement with voters as a total afterthought. It's so all of that it's the kind of thing that makes me feel like, even though the polls are tied, I would just much rather be the Harris campaign at this moment. And I think it's a good lesson for democracy that you can't just throw money at everything. You actually have to do organizing, which means meeting people where they are, treating them with respect, conveying through your actions that they matter. That's what Democrats believe.
Ben Wikler, the chair of Dems, thank you so much for all the work you're doing. 5 days. We'll see you on the other side. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.